A TV show killed after just one screening. In 1999, famed director David Lynch delivered a television pilot to ABC, the same network that aired his show Twin Peaks. That show was about Hollywood and what happens to young women who arrive with dreams, and what the industry does to them. ABC screened it just once, and killed it the same day. Their reasons? Too slow and no commercial appeal. But wait a minute, it is after all David Lynch. Slow and non-commercial is the product. A few months later, Studio Canal stepped in, gave Lynch the money to rebuild the pilot, but as a feature film. He shot new footage, rewrote the ending, and turned a rejected TV episode into Mulholland Drive. 16 years later, Harvey Weinstein is arrested, and every story that broke thereafter could have been a deleted scene from the pilot ABC refused to air. Hollywood's response to the movie that predicted this? Well, they nominated Lynch for an Academy Award and never spoke of it again. Lynch died on January 15th, 2025. In 24 years, he never fully explained Mulholland Drive. He never named names, never pointed fingers, leaving it up to us to interpret its true meaning. The film begins with a young woman named Betty Elms who arrives in Los Angeles with dreams of becoming an actress. She meets a sweet elderly couple who wish her luck at the airport, but their smiles are just a little too wide, as if they know more about her future than she does. Betty's heart is full of optimism. She has a suitcase and her aunt's empty apartment, a seemingly perfect setup. Inside the apartment, Betty is shocked to find a dark-haired woman hiding in the shower. The woman is confused and terrified and doesn't know her own name or how she got there. All she has is a purse full of cash, a faint memory of a car crash, and a mysterious blue key. Betty names her Rita, and what follows settles into a kind of noir romance. Two women playing detective and eventually falling in love. The story feels like a beautiful Hollywood fable. But then comes the audition. Betty walks into a casting room to read for a part. The script is melodramatic, the setup cheesy, but she transforms it. Her performance is so raw and uncomfortably intimate that the entire room goes silent. The men in the room watching her are no longer evaluating her craft, they're assessing access. You can feel the tone tilt a few degrees darker. Betty thinks she's just nailed an audition, but we just watched a room of men clock her as something else. Lynch doesn't let us sit in that discomfort very long. He cuts away to someone else caught in the same machinery. Elsewhere in the narrative, a director named Adam Kesher is being forced to cast a woman he's never met. Betty believes the room went quiet because of her talent. Adam learns that talent was never the point. As these two tracks run side by side, the dream of being chosen and the reality of how choices are made, the film starts to feel like less of a story and more like a ritual being performed on its characters. And then, without much warning, the ritual takes them somewhere the story can't explain. At 2 a.m., Betty and Rita take a cab to Club Silencio. Red curtains, empty seats, a stage lit like an altar. A magician appears.
No hay banda. There is no band.
A woman sings. Halfway through, she collapses, but her voice keeps going. Betty begins to shake. Rita reaches into Betty's purse and pulls out something that wasn't there before. A small, midnight blue box. The first object in the film that feels foreign, as if it slipped into the dream from somewhere else. Rita's key, the one she's carried since the crash, clearly belongs to it. She fits the key into the lock, it turns, the box opens, and Betty vanishes. The film has now woken up. The apartment changes, Betty is gone, and in her place is someone else. Same actress, but unrecognizable. Hollowed eyes, greasy hair, a different life entirely. There never was a Betty. Her real name is Diane Selwyn. Everything we've seen up to this point, the romance, the detective work, the audition triumph, was a fantasy Diane built to survive what had been done to her. Rita is actually Camilla, the woman Diane loved, lost, and ultimately destroyed. In reality, Diane came to Hollywood with the same hopes Betty carried. She auditioned, she got close, but close in this industry is just another word for forgotten. Camilla was the one who got everything. The roles, the director, the life. And Diane was forced to watch from inches away. Rehearsals where Camilla draped herself over Adam, dinner parties where Diane was a guest of her own erasure. By the end, Diane has hired someone to kill Camilla. The blue key on her coffee table confirms the job was done. And those once kind, elderly faces who once wished her luck are now demons, crawling under her door, screaming, chasing her towards the only exit the system leaves for discarded women, her own death. She pulls the trigger herself. The dream is over. But that story was only the mask. Beneath the mask lies the machine, one that feeds on dreamers, discards them when it's finished, and relies on their silence to keep functioning. Hollywood isn't portrayed as an industry, it's portrayed as a cult, a belief system with initiations, sacrifices, and a doctrine enforced by the dream itself. When the screen fades to black, it becomes clear that Lynch made a film diagnosing Hollywood for what it is, an unstoppable force of darkness. Lynch is telling two stories, a dream and a reality. He's also diagramming how trauma builds parallel identities to survive itself. This is what dissociation looks like. The self that failed gets buried. The self that succeeded gets projected. Lynch shows us this visually. Characters repeat across roles. The same faces appear as actress, waitress, corpse. Different names, same function. The system fills roles whether you survive them or not. The blue box is the key to the whole architecture. It's not a plot device, it's a covenant. A container for the truth that can't be spoken while the dream is running. You don't get to open it until you've already failed the test. And then there's the nightmare that doesn't belong. Early in the film, a man named Dan sits in Winky's diner describing a dream to his friend. A creature behind the building is watching. He walks outside to prove it's not real, but the creature appears. If the first half of the film is Diane's fantasy, then whose nightmare is this? Why is someone else's trauma invading her dream? Well, it's because the dream was never self-contained. The system's demons don't belong to any one person. They're archived, passed down, inherited. The creature behind Winky's was there before Diane arrived. It'll be there long after she's forgotten. Hollywood's nightmares are institutional. They circulate. The beautiful fable was never a story. It was a mask the system wears to keep you watching, to keep you believing the dream might work out, even as the machinery processes another body. So who runs the machine? Well, the answer isn't so much a person, but a structure. A series of gatekeepers who enforce outcomes that look like choices. For example, the cowboy shows up from nowhere, speaks in riddles, tells director Adam Kesher exactly which actress to cast. No discussion, no audition, no appeal. You'll see me one more time if you do good, 2 more times if you do bad. That's not advice. That's a supernatural contract wearing a cowboy hat. He doesn't behave like a businessman. He behaves like an oracle, someone who's already seen the outcome and is simply walking you towards it. How about Mr. Roke? A shadow behind glass, a voice on a speaker. Controls the money, which means he controls everything. We never see his face clearly. We never hear him raise his voice. He doesn't need to. Roke doesn't make decisions, he creates conditions where only one decision is possible. Then there's the Castigliani brothers. When Adam resists casting their preferred actress, they don't argue, they don't threaten, they simply dismantle his life. Within hours, his car, his house, his wife, all gone. Not so much violence, but efficiency. Mulholland Drive is not a surrealist exercise. It's not Lynchian weirdness for its own sake. It is ultimately a documentary wearing the mask of dream logic. Lynch rebuilt sets to exact specifications. The dreamy quality is hyper-controlled. Every shadow, every pause, every color is engineered. Watch the palette shift. The first 2/3 glow with golden light, warm skin, the visual grammar of hope. After the blue box opens, everything drains. Sickly yellows, grayed out flesh. The lighting becomes testimony. When Mulholland Drive hit home release, the distributor was panicking. American audiences were leaving theaters confused. Critics were split, and the studio feared the film's weirdness would tank DVD sales. So they pushed Lynch to create something, anything that could be marketed as a roadmap. He refused to explain the film, but he did agree to write 10 cryptic hints printed inside the DVD case like a scavenger hunt called 10 Clues to Unlocking This Thriller. And buried among those clues is one that no one talks about. Clue number 8. Did talent alone help Camilla? That's Lynch pointing directly at the machinery of Hollywood and asking the question everyone pretends not to hear. Is success really about talent, or about who holds the keys? Then there's the audition. You remember the scene. In the story, it's the first crack in the dream. But look closer. It's a reenactment. Every room where an actress was told to perform vulnerability while men measured her submission. The casting couch here isn't implied. It's staged, lit, and shot. Let's talk about the casting for the film. Naomi Watts, who plays both Betty and Diane, wasn't acting from imagination. Before Mulholland Drive, she spent a decade on the verge of giving up, rejected by casting directors, being told that she was too this or not enough that, stuck in purgatory of almost. Endless auditions, endless callbacks that went nowhere. Endless moments where someone else walked out of the room with the life she thought she was close to. By the time Lynch cast her, she was living Diane's psychology in real time. So when you watch her in the audition scene, that sudden shift into raw intimacy, the room going silent, the way she seems both powerful and terrified, it doesn't feel like performance, because it isn't. She wasn't just playing Betty dazzling a room, she was channeling every room that never chose her. The power of that scene comes from the fact that Lynch didn't hand her a fantasy, he handed her her own history. And the transformation works because Watts isn't pretending to understand Diane's desperation, she's remembering it. This casting was symbolic and testimonial. When interviewers nudged Lynch towards the casting couch implications, he'd shrug with practiced amnesia. "I don't know what you mean," he would say. Plausible deniability delivered with a straight face. Lynch understood the rules. You can hint it, but you can't say it. The industry is willing to tolerate exposure, but it will punish accusations. So he showed us everything and said nothing. For 24 years. Hollywood understood the map, and they responded exactly how systems protecting themselves always respond. Lynch's original pilot was 90 minutes. The theatrical film is 147. That's 57 minutes of new footage and an entirely restructured ending. The original pilot has never been released. 90 minutes of footage that ABC deemed too dangerous to air, and we've never seen it. So why? Well, we can deduce that it wasn't the pacing or the weirdness, because Twin Peaks had both. It was the target. Twin Peaks pointed at a small town, while Mulholland Drive pointed at the industry itself. Lynch didn't predict Weinstein. What he did was shine a light on the ecosystem that would allow a Weinstein to function in the first place. Hollywood did what it always does. It repackaged The Autopsy as harmless entertainment. Look at how this film was sold. Posters of two beautiful women, taglines promising seduction and mystery. The actual film is about Hollywood's systemic destruction of women. The marketing sold to us was that destruction as a spectacle. They took Lynch's Autopsy and portrayed it as something else entirely. The film gets celebrated and absorbed into discourse as art. Hollywood's message is simple. We're open to rewarding you for exposing us because no one will believe it's real. We'll hang it in a museum where it can't hurt anything. The pilot was buried. The film's true thesis was canonized. And Lynch, the only person who could explain what he'd actually made, never said a word. He didn't explain because the explanation is closure. Lynch took the answers with him. The film remains, still asking questions. The film's version of Hollywood isn't fiction. It's a portrayal that only got more accurate with time. The casting couch didn't start in the 1990s, it was built into the system from the beginning. Studio-era contracts that own actors' bodies, producers who decided careers with a handshake and a closed door. This has been going on for decades, not in secret but out in the open. Weinstein isn't an aberration, he's an inevitability, the product of an ecosystem that had already perfected the art of looking away. An open secret is success of complicity. Everyone knows, that's the point. Knowing and doing nothing is how you prove you belong. The Weinstein pattern was the same pattern depicted in the film. A gatekeeper who controls access. A young woman who needs that access. A transaction that's never really called a transaction. And a code of silence that protects the gatekeeper because the system needs gatekeepers to function. 16 years after the film, the dam broke. Every story that surfaced could have been a deleted scene from the original pilot. That's what made the Me Too testimony so devastating. It wasn't just one woman. It was hundreds. Each thought she was alone. Each thought her experience was unique. The system depends on that isolation, on women believing their story is individual rather than structural. Lynch showed us a world where the same woman appears in multiple roles: actress, waitress, corpse. Because to the machine, she was never an individual in the first place. Hollywood didn't invent the machine, it perfected it, and the rest of the world learned its language. The machine succeeded. That's the part nobody wants to sit with. Diane didn't fail Hollywood. Hollywood worked exactly as designed. It took a dreamer, processed her, and discarded her, and made the destruction look like a personal choice. Ask yourself, have you ever felt that collapse? The moment you realized the story you were living was never really yours, that you performed your role so well you forgot you were performing, that the ending was written before you arrived. That question sits there because it's supposed to. We all inherit scripts we didn't write. We all run dreams that were installed before we knew how to question them. The only difference between Diane and the rest of us is that she woke up. And waking up in this system is the one thing you're not supposed to survive. Lynch made a film about a machine that destroys dreamers. 24 years later, that machine is still everywhere. It doesn't need Hollywood anymore. It has Silicon Valley. It has Wall Street. It has every industry that runs on access, leverage, and silence. Mulholland Drive wasn't just a movie, it was a warning. And we're all living in its sequel. If you enjoyed this cultural autopsy through the prism of film, hit that subscribe button, because some questions don't answer themselves, and the ones that matter usually don't. Which film went further, Mulholland Drive or Eyes Wide Shut? Which one actually showed us more of the machine, and which one hit its sharpest teeth behind symbolism? Thank you for watching, take care of yourselves out there, and until next time, remember, movies aren't just entertainment, they're warnings disguised as dreams.